Hi, all. It's Sharon Coleman from the Joy Mentor. We have a special guest today. Her name is Marla Williams. Let me read a little bit more about this amazing lady for you. Marla Williams is an intuitive coach, author, and CEO of the Being Zone. Marla was a high-powered human resource professional, helped a startup company move from $12 million to $2.3 billion. She helped develop strategies and a game-changing culture, which helped lead to their success. She was, in her words, at that time, a human doing, not a human being. She was stressed from multitasking and burning the candle at both ends. And what happened is she started to shut down her adrenal glands. So her doctor warned her, either you stop or you die. So Marla went out and sought out a solution, and she found one. She transformed her life and is now helping both individuals and businesses transform theirs through her amazing 5-step process named the Being Zone. Her 5-step process is a transformational experience for rediscovery, reconnection, and healing. Please help me welcome Marla to the show today. What an incredible journey you've had.
Yay. It was crazy, actually, the early years. Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a journey that you've gone on from, and I too went through the large corporate career to doing what I'm doing today. So I can certainly understand the point that you were at, and I'm sure glad that you found a solution and moved away from it. So if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about the beginning and the journey from where you were to starting the Being Zone?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing, and I've helped dozens and dozens of clients move from that doing zone into the being zone as a result of my own journey. But the thing is, when I was in corporate America, I didn't know how to say no. I was a pleaser. I had learned from my dad that you work hard. And so to me, working long days and even over the weekend was nothing, because oftentimes he was a CPA. I never saw him part of the year. So I had this deeply ingrained in my belief system. And what I find with my clients is most of them do too. They don't believe they can slack off if they're making as much money as they're making or in such a key position with the company. But I got to tell you, your body is not designed to be on all the time. It's not designed to run under that kind of stress. And it begins to break down. Mine started with chronic fatigue. It moved into other miscellaneous things. And then ultimately the adrenal glands were shutting down. Even though I was doing things to maintain health, I was still pushing. And you can't push as hard. So what I learned is you can do more in less time if you think and operate differently. And that's when I started learning about energy. I started learning about breathing. I was already doing yoga, right? And I was doing things to kind of maintain health. But when you learn how to really slow down your mind, and instead of worrying all the time and going, oh, I got to get this done, I got to get done, and my list is 1,000 miles long, I start every day in the being zone by breathing and grounding and following the 5 steps that I'm going to teach your group today. And doing that puts me in a very grounded state. So when I do things, I actually can get them done in a lot less time. So I'm more effective, more efficient, and never stressed because of the work I do personally.
Oh, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. It's so interesting, isn't it? But
Oh,
it's a large move, and yet it's a simple move to just
yeah.
slow down and stop. And we create things so much better when we come from that relaxed part of ourselves rather than that one where the adrenaline is just like flowing through our body. So I love that. I know
Yeah.
you know that our summit is on happiness. And so
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you can talk to us and maybe give us a few tips on what we can do to live a happier life.
Okay. So the number one thing everybody can do to live a happier life is get out of what I call their ego head or their subconscious. People don't realize it, but we only use our conscious brain, our right and left brain, 5 to 10% of the time. The majority of how we react to the world today is in our subconscious. And that's based on a belief system that was ingrained in us based on what we heard from the time we were born through most of our formative years. It's become who we think we are. And it's that little voice that worries. It's that little voice that says you're not enough, or you can't do that, or you have to work harder. It's that little voice, and learning to turn off that little voice that just keeps going in the background all the time is the first step, right? And I actually have a little tool. Do you want to learn a little tool
Yes,
for that?
please.
So
Absolutely.
basically, when your brain, so let's just say you have a busy day at work and you're going, how am I ever going to get all this done? And I have to do this and I have to do that. Just catch yourself. You got to catch yourself doing this. Catch yourself and say, okay, here I am worrying about all the things I need to do. I'm starting to increase the stress in my body because of my thoughts. And what you do is you just stop and pull out that thought. So if your thought is, I'm stressed and I have too much to do, stop and say, okay, where in my body do I feel that stress and that I have too much to do? And let's just say it's in your head. So just reach your hand towards your head, pull out that thought and look at it. When you're talking to the thought, you actually can get rid of it and say, hey, stressed feeling, too much to do feeling, I don't need you right now. I'm good. I'm going to breathe and ground, and I'm going to take this day in stride or with grace. And you wad it up and you throw it away. And people think I'm silly, but then they start doing, they go, that really works. When I catch myself and I pull it out and throw it away, then I can start from more of a grounded spot. So I call it the throwaway tool, and it's quite simple.
I love
And
that. I love that tool, though. It's interesting because that really does bring awareness to what's going on inside of us
right,
that's
right.
causing the stress. So I actually just think that's genius. And then it also puts us in touch with where it is on our body. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think when I know for me, when I get the most keyed up, I'm now living up here in my head and I'm no longer even feeling or aware of what's going on in my body. So I
Yeah,
love that, the throwaway exercise.
yeah,
I love the
yes,
throwaway exercise. I know
yeah,
you also mentioned breath as
yes,
something that's a tool and that's important in doing this work of being. Can you talk to us
right,
a little bit about the breath and maybe give us an exercise so we
yes.
know how to practice the breath?
Absolutely. So, what most people don't realize is as we go through the day, especially when we're stressed or have a lot to do, is we shallow breathe. We don't oxygenate our body. And what ends up happening is becomes more tired and collapsed and exhausted. And just learning to stop and breathe as you go through your day is critical. The breathing does a lot of things. It actually lowers, and they've measured this medically, scientifically. When you take deep breaths, you are actually decreasing your blood pressure, your heart rate, you're calming your system, you're increasing your serotonin or your happiness chemical, right? And so some things, let me just walk you through one. So usually what I have people do when we breathe is I have you breathe in through your nose, and I want you to visualize that you're actually filling up your entire body. Because even when I tell people to breathe deep, they don't want to see their stomach expand because we always have been told to keep our stomach in, right? But what we're trying to do here is actually fill up our body with air, and I call it with love. And so when you breathe in through your nose, you're filling your body with love. And then you're releasing it through your mouth. And then that's when everything collapses in your body, where you suck your stomach back in and you just let everything that doesn't serve you go. And if you make a sound as you're releasing it, they're actually saying that absolutely increases their serotonin more. And it's actually been used pre-surgery and stuff with some people who are prepping for surgery. So let's just go ahead and do a few breaths and practice this. So we're going to take a deep breath in of love through our nose, and we're going to hold it, and we're going to release everything that doesn't serve us through our mouth. And a deep breath in through your nose, and hold, and release. Oh. A deep breath in through our nose, and release it. Now tell me, just doing that, don't you
Oh, you
feel
feel
more
better.
relaxed
What's
and present?
interesting is you can feel I can feel the feel good chemical go
Yes.
to my brain by doing
Yeah.
that. Immediately, there's that beautiful sense of well-being that's happening.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Yeah. And it's also, I don't know if you feel it, but my body tingles when I do it right. When I take the time to breathe correctly, my it awakens my body. And so your energy is all over. And I actually get little goosebumps and my body tingles because it feels more relaxed and happy.
I like that. I like that.
Fun little,
The
fun little
demonstration.
things.
That's a good demonstration. I know that as an HR professional, but in your business now, when you help businesses and corporations, you deal a lot with communication techniques. Can you talk to us a little bit about how we can become better communicators? Maybe a couple things that we could do?
Well, I think the most important thing is you have to stop and listen. And when you're a high stress person and running all the time, or a mom and you're responding to your kids, a lot of times it's, yeah, I heard you, but you're not tuning in. The most effective communications in the entire world is eye contact. Do your breathing before you start having that conversation, because you'll get grounded, and then you can actually hear what the person has to say. Most of us are coming up with our answer before they finish talking, and that is actually very disrespectful. I used to do it all the time. I know. As a professional and leading strategy and stuff in a company, I tended to always have my head one step ahead of everything else. And so I didn't always tune in and hear everything. And that was part of my stress problem. And so I really think if you just stop and breathe, look somebody in the eye and really hear what they're saying, let that sink in, and then respond, and you're going to be a more world-class communicator just doing that.
That's
Just doing that.
that's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing to say,
Yeah.
because I know too, in that corporate environment, when there's a lot of stress going on, a lot of people in the boardroom, and you start preparing for what you're going to say, you actually do tune out of listening. Listening is very easy for me to do now, but I'm in a
Yeah.
very relaxed environment.
Right.
And it really is also something that sets us apart, I think, because
Mhm.
there are many people, whether it's your own business as an entrepreneur or whether it's in a corporate environment, and they're not really listening. And we know, don't we all
Yeah,
know
we
when
do.
we're talking to someone and they're not actually listening to what we say? So
Yeah.
that's a huge cue and a great tip to help people actually differentiate themselves, is to stop and take the time. And there's always time, right? There's
Right.
always time to stop.
There's another piece to that that I think is worth mentioning, and that is a lot of times when you tune people out, ask yourself why you're talking to that person. You know, they might not fit within your value system. They might not really be the right person based on your goals and where you're going in life. But when you start tuning people out, something's off. And so really ask, is this a value added relationship? Is it going to make me happier? Is it going to help my business grow? Is it going to help me be more successful? Because when you do that, then you might start taking some of the meetings and sessions and busy work you do away by realizing who you should be talking to and who you shouldn't, right?
Yeah, that's excellent. Talk about tuning into alignment, right? That's a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing. I know that you talk a lot about the five-step system
Mm-hmm.
that you have. Can you introduce us just to a piece of it?
Yeah. So the five-step system is tied to the word being, Being. And being is when you use these five steps, which I do daily. And by the way, these 5 daily steps, you're going to get a cheat sheet at the end. But when you do these every single day, and I'm going to give you a quick sample of what it might look like, and you can do it in 5 minutes or under if you're crazy busy. I actually spent about an hour doing this stuff because it really gets me in the zone. But if you only have 5 minutes, take the 5 minutes. But the B stands for breathe, right? So stop and breathe. The E stands for energy. What people may or may not realize is when we're stressed or going 100 miles an hour, our body's energy gets drained. And what we want to do is we want to have good energy to get through the day. We want to feel good. We want to be full of energy. And so you have to take away the fears, the worries, the things that are keeping you not as energetic. And you can do those like with the throwaway tool. You can do those by getting grounded, which just sitting out, believe it or not, in the grass, barefoot, or laying down in the grass or on the beach actually brings energy into your body and calms your system. They actually have medical reports that shows it lowers your blood pressure, it increases your health, it improves your attitude, etc. So just grounding outside. I have some artificial ones for the winter when you can't be outside. I have a tree grounding exercise on my website that people can go listen to, but there's different ways to get to that. But you just want to get rid of anything that doesn't serve you and doesn't feel good and throw it out, or just release it. Just make the intention to release it and then bring in the good energy. So that's the E step of BE. And then the I step is intentions. Here's the problem. A lot of people are running every day, but they don't necessarily know always where they're going. So when you say your intentions, so you end up getting caught up in your thoughts and your worries instead of really where you want to be. So an intention statement, as easy as I intend to be grounded and centered today and go through this day with ease and grace, that's your intention, and you say it out loud and you write it. That is going to be more likely what your day looks like versus going, oh my gosh, I have too much to do and I got to do this, and here's my to-do list, and oh my gosh, right? And so the intention is the I step. The N step is your true north. And everybody, I believe, has a reason that they're on this earth. And I do work with people to kind of figure out their purpose. But it's not saying that you should be a scientist or you should be this. It's really more of what are your natural gifts and your natural abilities. And we get to the core of those. And then how can you make a difference in the world with these so you feel more fulfilled by what you're doing? And so true north, the north is the N in the being zone. And then the last one is I look for guidance, something bigger than me. I don't just come up with everything in my own head or my own heart. I ask source, universe, God, whatever language you use, whatever you talk to, I ask for guidance. And I say, help guide me to do the right thing for the world, because it's not about me. It's about what I can do to make a bigger difference in the world. And things come to me. When I ask that question at the end of my practice, things come to me. And my clients have told me when they do these 5 steps daily, their day goes beautifully. When they start getting really good at that and everything's going well, and they stop doing the daily work, their day goes awry. And so every single client that I've coached through this tells me, I don't miss my daily steps. I do the being steps every single day without exception because I like having good days. And so even when you're pushed and rushed, 2 minutes, I don't care how long you take, do your 5 daily steps. And again, I'll give a sample of this to the audience later.
Now I understand. They're very inspired, the being steps. That really is an incredible path every day to set the tone for your day. So I understand how that had the power to start transforming your life, and the power that you gave to others to transform their own lives through what you came up with there. That's beautiful, Marla.
Because I always started my day with a to-do list and not with calming.
That's right. Or frantic, right? And I know it's true for a lot of moms. I tell the moms that I coach, like, start earlier in the morning before the babies are awake and going. Give yourself even 20 minutes of peace, right? Before they get up. But to take that, like you said, those steps can be done very quickly, but it gives them a basis for their day. I love that, Marla. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Nice thing. I know you have other wonderful tools. By the way, Marla's website is right down below, and she has incredible resources on her website. Also down below are the free gifts that she's going to give us today as well. So in a minute, I'll ask Marla to talk more about those. My last real question for you, Marla, is do you have specific things that can help us take care of ourselves even more on a daily basis than what we're doing? Because you have mentioned a great deal of excellent steps for us to take. I'm just curious, before we end our interview, is there anything else that you would want them to know about today?
One of the most important things that I do, and I schedule it into my life now because I didn't used to do this. I used to kind of jam it in on the edges. Now it's part of my schedule, is what I call happiness boosting activities. And when a person builds things that make them feel good into their everyday, you feel happier and better all the time. And it doesn't have to take all day. It can be short periods of spurts here and there, because mothers are busy. You got kids, you got work, you're juggling a lot of things, and you don't have to change your whole life. But a lot of these things you can actually do with kids, right? And so to me, a happiness, let me tell you a couple of my happiness boosting activities. And I recommend that everybody on the call today take time to write down about things that really make them happy. I love to paint. When I paint, I get lost in time. So I paint, believe it or not, rocks. I actually have a little group online, a Facebook group called Love Rocks, and people get on and they paint rocks and they spread them out all around parks. People find them and then they come post what they found. So it's actually all around the world now, and people, it's called Love Rocks. I go out and hike almost every single day in the woods because that is a happiness thing for me. I sit on the beach or I kayak because that is a happiness thing for me. I watch cloud shapes in the sky and look for, hearts and animals and whatever else. It fills me up. And those are things you can do with kids too. If you're a busy mom with kids, don't think it's something extra you have to do. But I got to say, mom time is also very important, right? Massages and some of those things bring happiness too. So.
I love that. And it's interesting because I think one of the things that used to plague me and really helped me to get physically sick is that I wasn't having fun anymore. I wasn't practicing those things that brought me happiness. And so I felt like the world got so serious that I was getting swallowed up with the corporate world. So I love that you're talking about that. And everybody does need to find the things that make them happy and try to practice it on a daily basis, whatever it is. That's a beautiful tip for all of us. Thank you, Marla. Now,
Yes.
Marla is going to give all of you amazing free gifts, which are listed below. But Marla, will you take a minute to just tell us about the great gifts that you're giving us?
Absolutely. So one of them is going to be a sample being steps cheat sheet so that you can just practice the simple ones. And if I just wrote a book, and there's actually all kinds of ways to even make it better if you read the book. So the cheat sheet will be great to start with. But if you want to build on that practice and even make it more amazing, read the book. The second tool I call soul retrieval. And what it does is we tend to live everywhere, going here, going there, getting pulled 1,000 different directions. And what it does is it takes all of that and pulls it back in to your energy system and fills your body with good, positive energy. It's really a deep and amazing little recording that I'm going to offer everyone for free. And it just, you walk out of there and you're just like buzzing, as my husband goes, it just puts me in my happy place, right? And so that's what you want, is you want to listen to meditations or relaxations or this soul retrieval. By the way, I learned it from a person who spent most of his life traveling around the world talking to shamans. And it's a practice that many shamans from many different cultures have used to help people feel better. So it's a happy practice.
Thank you for these gifts. These gifts are excellent, Marla, and they're right below everybody, as well as her website where you can also buy her latest book. So Marla, thank you so much for taking the time today to share your heart with us. You are actually the example of what it is that you teach.
Yeah,
It shines from you. You're a
Thank
lovely
you.
lady, and we appreciate you taking the time today to give all of us these helpful hints. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.